our backs today. And if you have that yoga block, we're going to find a gentle heart opener here. So if you don't have a block, you can use a pillow as well. But we are going to place our block at around mid-back height. So as you lay back, you want it to align so that once your head reaches the floor, you feel like your sternum and heart are being elevated here. This is what we call a heart opener. And you have a couple options with your legs. You can either extend them long onto the mat. You can also bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees fall open to the side. This is called Supta Baddha Konasana in Sanskrit, so some fun facts for that. So as you settle in here, if you feel like your block or object underneath you is poking you in any weird way, just adjust as needed. And I encourage you to either take your hands to your thighs or to the floor, your palms facing up. Allow your eyes to close. So I'm going to take us just through some concentration here to start to focus your mind and body a little bit more. So as you settle in, start to observe your breath and also your mind. Often coming into a class, we bring in whatever has happened this morning. We bring in whatever our plans are after this. And we want to try to let go of all of that. So the next 60 minutes is really your time to focus in on your mind and your breath and your body, and particularly your breath. Throughout the day, we often don't take time to notice how we're breathing or when we're breathing. So start to observe the rhythm of your breath, not changing anything quite yet, just observing it. Start to observe the location of your breath, whether it's moving into your ribs or your belly, the sides of the body or the back of your body. And then once you observe your starting point, see if you can start to deepen your breath. So extend the amount of time it takes to inhale and exhale. See if you can send your breath not only into the rib cage, but into the belly. Take about 5 deep, slow breaths here. Imagine that your torso, the parts on either side of your object underneath you, are just draping and melting over the block and towards the floor, creating this really nice opening in the front of the body. Each exhale lets you melt a little bit more into the floor. It lets all your joints relax, all those tendons and ligaments, tight spots, they let go. Take about 3 more full breaths right here. Now gently starting to come back to your elbows just for a moment. Slide your block or object out from underneath you and lay back down onto the mat. Keep that object nearby though. We're going to use it again in a little while. Bring your hands to the outsides of your knees and draw them together if they were apart. Then take both knees into your chest. Give yourself a little hug here. Maybe a little rock side to side if that feels good. From here we'll work into 2 different options. One's called figure 4, the other is called shoelace legs. Now this all just depends on your hip mobility and how you're feeling today. So wherever you are, if you want to take a figure 4 shape, you're going to bring your right ankle to your left knee. So it creates that number 4. You'll thread your arms through, grab around your hamstring or around your shin. That's your first option. Second option is to slide your right thigh all the way over to cross over the left thigh and then draw the legs into your chest. From there, you'll take the hands to the outsides of the ankles or shins and start to bring your legs in towards you. So those are your 2 different options. Decide which one feels most comfortable for you today. And just start to observe the stretch into the hips. This is primarily focusing in on the right hip glute piriformis. Once you find your stretch, bring your attention back to your breath. Those inhales and exhales might feel a little different now. Different parts of your body are being compressed, different areas are being stretched. So see where those tight spots are. Where are the areas that need a little bit more breath, more space? And then send the breath to those spots. Each exhale, release something that's tight. See if you can have minimal engagement in your body. Your arms will be a little bit active, but besides that, really see if you can just relax. So the feet and ankles, relax. The hips, glutes, low back, relax. Maybe even notice the face. Let that relax too. And take about 20-ish more breaths here. Each exhale, letting go of something else that might be distracting you or something else that might be holding tension. Have about 10 more breaths. If you have your legs in your shoelace variation, maybe play with pulling the heels away from your glutes and then drawing your legs in. How does that change the stretch? Final inhale. Exhale, gently release your legs, unwinding them. Now from here, we'll take what's called legs up the wall. It's an extremely simple pose, but if you have a block or something like a pillow, I want you to lift your hips up, put that block underneath your tailbone, and sit back down onto it. So it should feel like it's on the low part of your lumbar spine, really underneath the tail. We'll extend the legs up to the ceiling. So now you have elevated hips, and the elevation of these hips really helps you relax into the hip flexors a little bit more in this pose. So allow your arms to release down by your side. Give yourself a little space between your legs and let your knees be soft. So it's not a bend of the legs. It's not really forcing straight legs. It's just a gentle relaxation in the back of that joint. Let your feet be floppy. Let your ankles relax. Allow your eyes to close. Now this legs up the wall pose is a very simple inversion, so it's actually going to give you the same benefits as a headstand or a handstand held for a while. And one of the concepts of it is that it lets all the blood drain out of the legs and feet, and then when you bring them down again, it'll bring a fresh rush of new blood and fresh oxygenated blood to the legs. So keeping that in mind, we're taking about 15 breaths here. Just feeling the blood drain from the feet. Maybe observe kind of a natural sway in the legs. It's almost like they're in a breeze. Let the breath move into the ribs and all the way up to the feet. And as you exhale, let it move in the opposite direction. You have about 5 more deep, slow breaths here. Now gently bend your knees, and then slide your block out from underneath you. Let your hips come down to the floor and draw the legs into the chest. Give yourself a little shake. Feel all the circulation come back into your feet. It's kind of a fun feeling. And then from here, we'll work into the other side of our figure 4 or shoelace legs. So reminding your 2 options are either bringing your left ankle to your right thigh and knee, bringing the arms through, grabbing onto the hamstring or shin. Or you can thread your left thigh across your right thigh to lift both legs and grab onto the outsides of the legs. Wherever you are, draw your legs in closer to you. Imagine your tailbone's really heavy here. So we want to feel the length of the spine imprinting into the floor as we pull the legs in towards us. Start to observe that stretch into your glutes and piriformis and outer hip. Maybe observe the differences from one side to the other. There's always going to be one side that's tighter, one side that's looser. So just observing it, maybe thinking about what imbalances might cause that. Allow your eyes to close again. Start to breathe a little deeper. Letting the air fill all the tight and stuck spots, the areas that might be resisting this stretch. And then as you exhale, see if you can let those areas soften. We have around 20 full breaths again. Letting go of any parts of the body that are holding unnecessary tension. About halfway through your time, so take about 10 more breaths here. Maybe if you're in that shoelace pose, you feel the heels pulling away from the glutes and then drawing in. How does that change the stretch for you? If you're in a figure four, you can use your left elbow to press your left knee away from you. That'll also help deepen the stretch. Last few breaths right here. Gently start to release your legs. Draw both legs into your chest again. Give yourself a hug. Grab your block or object and slide it back under the hips for our second round of legs up the wall. So bumping the hips up, block or object goes under, then sitting back down. Let the legs extend to the ceiling. Again, give yourself a gentle bend in the knees, so soften the legs. You can give yourself a little space in between the legs as well. Again, close your eyes. We take about 15 breaths here. Trying to relax the hip flexors, finding that angle where you're not trying to hold the legs up with your abs and hips. So they're just truly weightless here. Feeling the blood drain from the legs again. Five more breaths. Gently bend your knees. Take your block out from underneath you. Give yourself a hug. Maybe a little rock side to side. Noticing how the fronts of the hips feel, how the backs of the legs feel. And from here, gently roll up to a seat. Nice and slow here. And now, eventually, you have two different options for your legs. So we're going to work into what's called a Sukhasana, or seated position, or a double pigeon position. So if you're feeling like you want a little more opening in the glutes today, you can feel free to find a double pigeon with your right leg crossed over the left leg like this. So one shin on top of the other. If this is feeling a little inaccessible today, you can find your legs crossed, right leg in front of right. So literally cross-legged position. If you're in a double pigeon pose and your knee is all the way up in the air, slide a pillow underneath it. That's going to give you a good level of support. Now from here, we're going to work into our neck a little bit, so just creating a little bit more space. Take your fingers, interlace them, and place them behind the head at the nape of the neck, so right at the base of the skull. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, curl your elbows in towards you and let the head become really heavy. Now here, we're not stretching the full spine, we're only stretching the neck. So just just observing the tight spots here. We have about 10 breaths. And on each exhale, trying to release a little bit more into the cervical spine. Letting the weight of the hands and arms curl the head a little bit more. On your next inhale, gently bring your head back to center, really slow. Release your arms and then let your right ear fall towards your right shoulder. Allow your right hand to come to your left ear and give it a little more weight. And again, allow the stretch to come from the neck, so we're not finding a big side bend yet. It's just going into the neck. If you tuck your chin slightly, you might notice the stretch moves to the back side. We have 10 breaths here. Three more breaths. Gently release your hand from your head. Take your right hand under your right ear and assist your head in coming to center so you don't have to engage those muscles quite yet. Just take a moment here, settle, feeling how one side of your neck probably feels a touch longer than the other. Now we'll take that the other way. So gently let your left ear fall towards your left shoulder. Left hand comes towards that right ear, and that encourages the neck to stretch a little bit more. Always being really gentle with the cervical spine, so we never need to force anything here. We're just encouraging that little extra sense of weight. Maybe you tuck the chin a little bit, let the stretch move towards the back of the neck. Take about 5 more breaths. And gently release that hand. Take your left hand to your left ear and press your head back to center. And again, taking a moment of equilibrium here. So sitting up nice and tall. Just breathe. Now from here, we're going to take what's called eagle arms, and this is to target the space in between your shoulder blades. So essentially that's where you should end up feeling it. So keep your legs exactly how they are, and let your left arm cross over your right arm. So left over right, bend the elbows. Now 2 options here. You can either wrap the arms back and around the shoulders, or you can let your forearms go vertical and wrap the hands around each other for a full eagle arm. Now we're going to hold it here for about 15 breaths. On each inhale, I want you to imagine separating and broadening the space in between your shoulder blades. So move the shoulder blades away from each other. And then on each exhale, the fingertips reach slightly higher to the sky, or the elbows if you have your hands wrapped around your shoulders. So you inhale, you broaden and expand, creating more space in the back of your body. And then you exhale and deepen the stretch. You have about 15 breaths to do that. Nice deep breaths. Notice how available the back of your body is. Last few breaths. Final inhale. As you exhale, you can start to fold your body over your legs. Now this is something where if you're not making contact with your arms to the floor, you can briefly grab a pillow or blanket, place it over your hips and legs, and then fold back over again. Now optionally, you can always let your arms go, or you can maintain this eagle pose, doing what feels best for your body, but let your head be nice and heavy here. This is shifting the focus of the stretch primarily to that right outer hip, glute, maybe even your left side. So allow yourself to breathe nice and deep. As always, we have about 20 breaths. Still observe how the back of the body is really receptive to your inhales. Your exhales can relieve any tension from your hips and your glutes. Notice if your body's resisting. Final inhale. As you exhale, release your arms if you still have them, and then gently bring your body back up to center, sitting up nice and tall. From here, gently remove your pillow out to the side and extend both legs out in front of you. Now from here, we're going to find what's called caterpillar pose. So it's really just a simple forward fold. You can have your legs apart or together, and I encourage you to take a pillow and put it somewhere on your legs. So maybe in front slightly, that's going to give you a little less support initially, but if you're feeling more mobile, that's a good option. You can also slide it in closer, and that's going to give you more support later on. So take a deep inhale here, find some openness through the heart. Then exhale, start to drape your body down over the pillow. And just allow your chin to come to the pillow or one ear. And let your body become really heavy here. So this is one posture where it's extremely simple, so it's a great one for focusing in on that melting quality, the feeling of draping and softening over your prop versus forcing a stretch. So observe your arms, make sure they're not pulling, let the elbows relax, let the backs of the hands or fronts of the hands come to the floor. Observe your feet and legs. Are the feet holding any tension? Are you flexing the quads or trying to resist in your abs and hip flexors? And if so, just let them relax. Also check in on the head and neck. You might need more support underneath you. If that's the case, you can always slide a pillow underneath and take your head down onto that. So like a pillow or blanket, whatever extra support you need. We're holding about 20 breaths here as well. I guess 20 is our magic number today. See if you can bring your attention to your breath and how you can move it through the back of your body. And you have about 10 more breaths. Last few breaths. Gently start to bring your body up nice and slow. Once you arrive, you can slide your props out to the side for a moment. Then we'll take a counter pose. It's called reverse tabletop. So bend your legs, bring the soles of your feet to the floor, about hip width distance. Allow the hands to come behind you, fingertips pointing forward. And as you inhale, start to lift your hips up to the ceiling. You can let your head drop back if that feels good. Just about 3 breaths here. Gently bring your chin back to your chest, let your hips lower down to the mat. And we'll find our Sukhasana or seated cross-legged or double pigeon on the other side. So this time left leg is going to go on top if you're finding your double pigeon, making sure that your 2 shins are crossed and stacked, one on top of the other. If you have your Sukhasana or seated, it's going to be left leg crossing in front of right. Reminder here, if your knee is really elevated and that top knee in your double pigeon, you can slide a pillow underneath it and give yourself some support. So working into our neck stretch is a little bit deeper this time. I encourage you to remember the difference between curling and folding. So folding is when we extend out and over. Curling is where we really articulate through the spine. Now in this, we're focusing on that curling sensation. So interlacing the fingers, bring them around the back of the head towards the nape of the neck again. Take an inhale, find some length. And exhale, start to curl. So starting from the top of the head, see if you can go a little deeper this time. So you might start to reach the crown of the head towards your shins, but curling it, not reaching and extending. Feeling the whole length of your spine start to curl, almost like a fern. Just take about 10 breaths here. Let your head be really heavy like a bowling ball. Let your arms deepen that stretch. Gently start to bring your body back up to center. And just releasing your hands away from your head for a moment. Now we'll work into our left ear to left shoulder first. Now on this one as well, you can feel free to start to work it into a little bit more of a side bend, but remembering it's the curl of the spine, not a big reach up and over. So allow your left ear to start to fall towards your left shoulder. Left hand can come to the right ear. And start to gently draw that head over, feeling as if the bottom of your right rib cage is lifting to the ceiling as you contract into the side. You have about 10 breaths here. Final couple breaths. Gently releasing your hand from your head, bring your left hand to your left ear and press your head back to center. Just take a moment in equilibrium here, feeling the differences from one side to the other. Then take a gentle inhale. Exhale, right ear to right shoulder. Right hand can come to the left ear. And again, imagine you're like a fern, the way they curl, that your spine is that front, lifting up from the left side base of your rib cage as you curl over to the right. 10 full breaths. Imagine your head's a bowling ball. That weight helps draw you deeper. Final few breaths. gently release your right hand, bring it to your right ear, and press your head back to center, nice and gentle. Take a moment in equilibrium, sitting up nice and tall, feeling the length now that's on both sides of your spine, as well as through the crown of your head to the ceiling. Now from here, we'll work into our eagle arms. Now again, we're gonna eventually fold forward, so if you found on the first side that you needed more support underneath you when you folded, you can move that pillow into place now, just so you're already ready for when it's time. Now wherever you choose to go, it's gonna be right arm over left arm, so right over left, bending the elbows, either wrapping the arms around the shoulders or letting the forearms go vertical and continuing to wrap so that the palms of your hands come together. We're staying upright for about 10 breaths here and reminding yourself of the sensation we're aiming for. On your inhale, you're broadening and creating space between your shoulder blades. On your exhale, you're reaching the elbows and fingertips closer to the ceiling. So we're constantly separating the back of our body. Imagine you're pulling it apart. So take another inhale, broaden through the back. Keep this broadness as you exhale, reach the elbows a little higher. You have about 8 more breaths just like that. Final few breaths. Take another inhale. Now either keeping your arms or letting them go, start to fold over your legs as you exhale. Let the arms release towards the floor, let the head relax. And just observing the shift of the stretch into the hips primarily, with the arms then releasing down. Maintaining the eagle arms is going to help continue to broaden the back of your body and stretch that area between your shoulder blades. Deepen your breath, let the back of your rib cage fill, let your exhales move into your hips. You have around 20 breaths here. Last couple breaths. Gently release your arms first and start to bring your body upright. And then from here, we're just going to take our legs long out to the sides, working into a wide-legged forward fold just for a few moments, just to counteract all of that crossing of the legs. So extending them out. This can just be to wherever you feel comfortable. So if you have a lot of mobility, you can go out really far. If you don't, no big deal. From here, you can bring your pillow out in front of you, and I usually encourage it to go lengthwise, so that way your torso has something to lay over. Now, if you're feeling really tight here today, you might need 2 pillows. I want you to make sure that you can create a level of support for your body that can feel comfortable. So wherever you go, take an inhale, find some length. Then exhale, start to fold yourself forward over that pillow. Now you'll immediately start to notice where you need a little extra support. So it might be stacking another pillow underneath your chest. You might need to bring your elbows to the pillow and your hands underneath your chin to create a little shelf. I personally really like this variation. You can also release yourself all the way down over your surface. Wherever you are, you should be starting to feel a targeted stretch in your inner thighs as well as your hips. We're here for about 20 breaths as well. So allow yourself to start to breathe nice and deep into the tight areas. This stretch is one that is particularly uncomfortable for a lot of us, so I want you to see if you can introduce a sense of stillness into your breath and into your body. So minimal fidgets, minimal adjustments, and just breathe into all the tight spots. You can close your eyes if it feels good. Try to imagine tipping your pelvis forward slightly. That's going to give you a good stretch or an improved stretch in the inner thighs. Take about 10 more breaths. Let these breaths be the deepest ones yet. Gently release, start to walk yourself back up nice and slow. Now from here, move your prop out to the side, and we're actually going to make our way to our back. So bring your hands to the outsides of the legs, draw them together in front of you, and before you lie down, just give yourself a little windshield wiper side to side, lingering in the internal rotation of your legs on each side. We've been working a lot of our external rotators and stretching those, so it's important to spend a little bit time internally rotating the legs as well. Take about one more round of windshield wipers on each side. Now from here, gently start to lay down onto your back and grab your block or 2 pillows on your way. So with this next stretch, it's called supported bridge pose. It might seem pretty familiar, but we want to create an elevation of the hips, so this is why I suggest using a block. If you do not have a block, take a pillow, just one that doesn't compress too much, so you might need to stack 2. You can also take a foam roller, so that's another really good option for this stretch that I actually love. So taking your block, either on its lowest setting or your pillows to a similar setting, extend your legs out in front of you with your block aligned underneath your tailbone and hips. So once your legs are extended, it should feel like your body's kind of in an arch and that your hip bones are the top of that arch. So we want to make sure it isn't under the lower back, it's underneath the pelvis. From here, just take a moment to observe what you're feeling in this little arch. So you might be feeling a stretch across the abs, you might be feeling something in the fronts of the hips. Now, keeping the left leg exactly where it is, start to draw your right leg into your chest. Wrap your arms around that leg, and by doing that, you're going to notice that your pelvis tips backwards slightly. We're aiming for that tip of the pelvis. Now, notice how the stretch changes in your left leg. Let it be really heavy, so we're not resisting it. If you're not feeling a lot here, see what happens if you bring your leg a little closer to your midline, so moving your left leg a little in, that might change it. This is a really nice release for your psoas, as well as the fronts of your hips and abs. So keeping your right leg drawn into your chest, let your arms be really heavy here, and let the right leg be the oppositional force for the left leg. So the more you draw that right leg in, often the more you'll feel a stretch in the front of that left hip. Allow your eyes to close. Just start to breathe nice and deep into the front of that leg. feeling all this length that's being created through the front of your body. Take about 15 or so breaths. Let's do around 20 breaths. Let's stay a little longer. Try to relax your feet. Maybe start to shift your focus back to your breath. Notice if your mind started to wander throughout the class. Notice if it's still feeling a little bit cluttered, and on each exhale, let go of one of those distractions. Let go of one of those thoughts. About halfway through, take about 10 more deep, slow breaths. Final inhale. As you exhale, gently start to release your right leg down to meet your left so that both legs are extended long. Just finding a moment of equilibrium, and observe how the front of your left hip might feel a little more open, a little longer than your right side. Take just one more breath right here. Now gently start to draw your left knee in towards your chest. Give yourself a little hug around the shin. Notice what happens on your right side. You should find that little tip of the pelvis so that your right hip starts to feel a nice stretch in the front. If you don't feel anything, move the leg slightly more into your midline. That might help. Or draw your left knee more into your chest. Make sure the right thigh is released. The foot is released towards the floor. And again, start to breathe. Each inhale, imagine yourself breathing into that arc in the front of the right hip. Each exhale, let your right leg become heavier. Let your left leg draw closer to your chest. We have around 20 breaths here again. Just observe your breath. Here it might feel like the right side of the rib cage can expand a little more easily, so send the breath there. It might feel as if you need to breathe into that hip a little bit more. Check in with tension. You're not clenching anything in that right leg. Let it really relax. Let it drape. Keep breathing nice and deep. You're about halfway there. Final inhale. Exhale, let your left leg extend long next to the right. Now take a moment, notice how the whole front of your pelvis feels pretty open, I hope. A nice kind of length and expansion in the front. Now here, gently bend your legs, plant the soles of your feet on the floor, lift your hips up just a little so that you can slide your block out from underneath you. Now from here, allow your arms to come out to a capital T shape, palms facing down, and bring your feet to about mat width distance if you're on a mat. If you're not on a yoga mat, it's just going to be a little wider than hip width on each side. Once your feet are mat width distance, gently let both knees start to fall over to the left side. So it's going to create kind of a pinwheel shape in your legs. Your right leg is going to be very internally rotated. Your left leg will be externally rotated. Now, if you want a little more, you should be feeling stretch in the front of that right hip, maybe through the side. You can take your left foot to the outside of the right knee, and that creates a really nice weight and lever to help draw that knee down a little more. Now imagine melting the right side of your rib cage back down towards the floor. Close your eyes. You can shift your gaze over to the right if it feels good, letting the right ear come towards the floor. We're taking about 10 full breaths here, continuing that stretch through the front of the hips, working our internal rotation a little bit. About 5 more breaths. If you moved your left leg to your right knee, gently remove that foot and inhale, bring both knees back to center. And just take a moment here in equilibrium. Let your pelvis feel heavy. Let everything feel even. Reset your feet if you need to, bringing them to about mat width distance. Take an inhale here. Exhale, let both knees fall over to the right side this time, creating that same pinwheel shape. So internal rotation in that left leg, external rotation in your right leg. You should be starting to feel something maybe into your left quad through the front of that hip and into the obliques. If you want that little extra, you can bring your right foot to the outside of your left knee. Give it some weight. You can let your gaze shift over to the left side if that feels good, and then close your eyes. Just feel that really nice stretch into the psoas, the hip flexor. Make sure you're breathing. This one can be kind of intense, so if it does feel like a lot for you, let your breath calm you down. Let your breath tell your body it's okay to be in this position. Let your breath help you settle in. You have about 10 to 15 breaths again on this side. Take about 5 more deep, slow breaths here. Gently bring your head back to center. Let your right foot slide off of your left knee, then bring your knees back to center. Take a moment in equilibrium. Let the whole length of your back lengthen down the floor. Then draw both knees into your chest for a moment. Give yourself a little hug. Create a little compression in the fronts of the hips. You might rock side to side. You can give yourself some circles of the knees. Just letting yourself contract a little bit here. Notice how that feels pretty different from the few stretches we've done in the opposite direction. Now, just before we find our final rest, we'll find happy baby. So bend the knees, grab onto the outsides or insides of your feet, and pull the knees down and around the rib cage. Now here you should start to feel a little release in the low back. Try to feel the spine lengthen down the floor so the tailbone feels nice and heavy. Just rock side to side if that feels good. You can straighten one leg, then the other if that feels right. The goal here is just to get that nice release through the inner thighs and the lower back. When you feel satisfied with that stretch, draw both knees back into your chest. And then very passively, just let your legs extend long onto the mat. Allow your arms to release down by your sides, palms facing up. Give yourself some space between your legs and some distance between your arms and your torso. Allow your eyes to close and start to settle into this final resting pose. It's called Shavasana in yoga, translates to corpse pose, and it signifies the end of a practice and the chance upon waking up to have a fresh start. Whatever that means to you, it can be interpreted in a ton of different ways. So take what you will. But start to let go of your breath, so allow it to find its natural rhythm. And if any thoughts come into the mind, let them pass without judgment or attachment. Let your eyebrows relax, and let your eyes fall back into the sockets. Let your jaw unclench, and the tongue fall away from the roof of the mouth. And in that same way, just work your way down your entire body. Imagine that you're laying in something soft like sand and that you weigh so much more than you do. So you sink deeper and deeper into the floor and like gravity is working extra. And just enjoy a few minutes in this Shavasana, just a couple. And I'll be back to wake you up when it's time. But for now, just enjoy having nowhere to be and nothing to do, and just let yourself be still. Start to deepen your breath, allowing new inhales and exhales to bring fresh air and energy into the body. Maybe start to wiggle the fingers and toes and let your head rock side to side, gently waking up the neck muscles. If it feels good, you can reach your arms back behind you, finding a good morning stretch like a giant yawn. And gently draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little hug. Then in whatever way feels good, you can start to make your way to a seat. So you can either roll over to your side into a fetal pose, or you can just roll up to a seated position. Keep your eyes closed though. I encourage you to keep your focus internal here, still avoiding any external distractions. Once you find yourself in a comfortable seat, allow your hands to come to heart center, so prayer position. Then let your chin drop and your eyes close if they opened. And just take a moment to thank yourself for doing something good for your mind and body for an hour out of your day. It's so important to take some time to stretch and relax when we do so many intense workouts on a daily basis. So thank yourself for that. Take one deep inhale all together. So inhale through the nose. Open mouth, sigh it out. Thank you so much for practicing with me today, you guys. You are done. So make sure to drink a lot of water today, hydrate, take care of your body. I will be back next Sunday at 11:15.